Hello everyone. Now in this session we will know about the next concept, that one is a multi-user database management system architecture. We already know about the types of database architecture introduction, in that centralized architecture, or it may be a client server, or it may be a transaction or a data server or cloud based. Now the sum of the, we can say that it's a multi-user. We will go with the multi-user, how exact the. Now the multi-user database architecture, it come with the types, that one is a teleprocessing, file server, client server. So we already know about this file server. This one is, we can say that the data server, and the client server, we already know about the client server also. These are the multi-user database management system architecture. Then one by one we will know about teleprocessing. That one is simply the single computer have the database, and or it may be a single database is there, one computer with a single central processing unit and the number of terminals, means a single computer have a CPU and the other particular computer as work as only a terminal. The performed within the boundaries of the same physical computer. That one is simply the this all the uses a common CPU, we can say that. Now this scenario, we can say that the teleprocessing, and we can say that this is a multi-user database architecture. These are the multi-user which ones access the database. Now the file server, that one is, we already know about, typically the local net used under the LAN. Then the application and database run on each workstation, requesting a file from the file server when necessary, right? Every computer have the database management system and the application, which one is send a request to the server for the file. Now this one is simply the scenario, it's a file server, then the database, and the different multiple user can access that database through the file server for the accessing the particular file, and that connected with the LAN. That one is simply the file server. Now the file server architecture have three main disadvantages. It's a large amount of network traffic. Full copy of DBMS is required on each workstation. Database management system on each station, right? And then it send a request to the file server and get the information or get the particular file. Concurrency, recovery and integrity control are more complex because of there can be a multiple database access systems. Like workstation 3 have a DBMS system, workstation 2 have a DBMS system, then all the separately send a request to the file server to access the file. That one is difficult to maintain the concurrency, recovery and integrity control under the file system, right, or the file server. Then what is the solution? Then client server is a technology which one is overcome the disadvantage of the first two methods. Then how exact it remove this disadvantage? Then it run with the client process and server process. Everyone knows the client server. When we access the particular website, that may be a Gmail, that means we access it with the help of browser. There is no need to a particular our system have a DBMS database management system. No, only the browser we can access all the information from the server. And then that task is divided into a two part. That one is a client process and server process. Client process which requires some resources, and the server process which requires some resources. Now there is no requirement that the client and server must reside on the same machine, because of that one is a client server, and in between it use internet. Now the client manages the user interface and the application logic. Like client manages when the user access a particular browser, then that's called as a client. Then it manages it takes the user request, right? Browser takes the user request. We can consider the browser as a client. Now checks the syntax. It checks the syntax on client side. Generate the database request in SQL. Transmit the message to the server. All the done by the client side, right? That is the client process. Now the server side accept the client request and process the database accept and process the database request, then transmit the result to the client. That is the server process. Now this is the scenario is a client server architecture. This is simply the server with a database management system and the database. The particular multi-user means every client send a request for a particular database, and that request managed by this database management system, right? That is the client server. Now what the advantage of the client server architecture? That is the increased, it's enable a wider access of the database, increases the performance, hardware cost may be reduces, then the communication cost is reduces because of this single DBMS system will manage all the communication, maintain the proper consistency, recovery, or it may be a database related issues. Now the increase the consistency, that one is a advantage. Then it map on the two open system architecture quite naturally. That one is these are the client task and these are the server task, right? That one is simply the divided. This if you read this task, it's a very simple or it very easy to understand. Manage the user interface, accept the checks syntax of the user, generate the database request, pass the response to the passes the response back to the user to getting the result from the database or from the server. Now the accept and process the database request, check the authorization, ensure the integrity, perform the query, maintain the system, provide the concurrent database, then provide the recovery control. This one is simply the comes under the server. Then alternative client server topologies are, it may be a single client single server, multi-client single server, multi-client multiple server, right? That one is, this one is a scenario about the single client single server, multi-client single servers, multi-client multi-server. This one is simply the explanation about to the client server as a multi-user architecture. Now the transaction processing monitor, we already know about the transaction server, the same concept. That one is a client is a tier 1, then application server with the TP monitor, that one is a transaction process monitoring, is a tier 2, and the database server, that one is a tier 3, and that one is comes under the transaction server. It's simply the explanation about the example of the multi-user database architecture, multi-user database management system architecture. Thank you.